Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah.
Let's go.
McNuggets has his own stinger now.
He does.
Ba-da-da-da-da.
And Bernie's here.
And Bernie Kosar is in the building.
I crashed in today.
I know. We looked out there about 20 minutes ago and said, who's trying to break in our front door? It was Bernie.
Oh, wait.
And we said, let him in.
I was the first one here. Come on.
That is a fact. That is
He
a
was.
fact.
Bernie was.
He was the first one of the four of us here.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you
crazy.
tape Austin Love yet, or is that later?
I hung out with Austin Love doing
Great.
one of his first podcasts
Very
today.
good.
Stomping through the Channel 3 studios.
That's awesome. It's always, always great to have you in. We're going to be seeing a little bit more of Bernie Kosar, which is a good thing. He'll be a regular on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show as we meander our way through the NFL season. Busy show because there's so much up in the air. We were talking before the show. What are they going to do with Deshaun Watson? Do you play him? Do you let him ultimately make the decision? Or if the coaches see something in practice that they don't like, are they the ones that just say, no, you're not going to go? We're going to get into that. Aditi is here. It's not just Deshaun Watson. You look at the injury list, there's a lot of names on it. A lot of guys couldn't practice yesterday. It was good to see that Joel Bitonio, who 2 weeks after having knee surgery, was on the practice field
That's
again.
crazy.
So that's a good sign.
By the way, it's so weird. I think this is the first time ever on the show that I've had people on both sides of me, because usually I'm either on this end or if you're not here, I'm on that
You're
end.
right.
So it's kind of weird. I got to turn both ways.
One time
you're
we
used
made,
to it.
Yeah, right.
remember we made Tyvis go on the
Right,
book
for the
end,
interview.
for one interview.
For that interview. But generally, so I'm
Yeah.
like,
Hey,
It's difficult, right?
I'm into my health
Yes.
and wellness. The last couple times I was on there, I was in the middle, and your awesome producer, Mike, was so great that I felt like I was at a tennis match.
yeah, right.
You
do. Exactly.
I did physical therapy
Exactly.
afterwards.
For your neck, we're
Yeah,
putting you on the
that's
end.
right.
Thank you.
For that,
Bernie
for
and I
that
had a
reason.
great chat off the air, and he's going to share some awesome insights when it comes to Deshaun Watson and what he's looking
He's
for.
had this injury.
Yeah.
And to your throwing shoulder. So really, you go to the source. Because you and I have had shoulder surgeries, we've had injuries, but this is the specific injury that Deshaun Watson's dealing with, and Bernie played with it. So we're going to talk to him about that, get some great insight. No fence riders, also coming up later in the show, but first, our inaugural hello of the day to You're Loving 'Em, ba-da-da-da-da, Mikey McNuggets. That's
Before
so
I do
good,
a
by the
read,
way.
can I tell you how that came about, by
Sure,
the way?
yeah.
So we did the first 5-pack of McNugget stats before, I think, the Ravens game.
Right, the 5-piece.
The 5-piece, yeah. And Ryan, who made our intro, like the OG epic intro, the 90-second one,
He's
90-second
tremendous.
one, was like, hey, I'll make a little stinger for that segment. We're recording with Brian, who does all the voiceovers.
Right.
I'll ask him to do one. And he messed up 12 times trying to do ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah.
And this guy does, like, Pixar voiceovers. He's as
Right,
good as it
he's a
gets.
pro.
And he goes, there's so many bad takes, I got to use them. Do you care if I put it in the intro? I was like, do I care? Hell yeah. Like,
That's great.
don't
Yeah.
ask twice. So
Yeah.
it kind of came out like that. We got a busy show, so let's get into some topics. Before we do that,
Wait,
though,
Mike. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
before we do that, I need to remind the good people out there that if they are looking to snap into any gambling action this season, they better be using FanDuel.com/UCSS to get in on all the action. We asked for some tickets yesterday, and wait till you see one of the winners we have coming up in a sec. But if you join FanDuel today, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose, when you place a $5 regular bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And Steve, if you want to take tag board full, let's give a shout out to Brian Abrams real quick. He turned $5 into $6,300 last Sunday with a 5-game parlay. Alternate spreads of 100-plus yards for Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Devon Achane, over 100 total yards, DeAndre Hopkins, Jamar Chase. That was a $5 free bet from FanDuel that turned into $6,268.13. So shout out to Brian. If you want to be like Brian, head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS.
I think what we could do moving forward is, if we get enough of these, we pick one on Thursday, and then that person gets to submit to us a 5-team bet for the upcoming weekend that our viewers might be able to double dip on.
That's true.
I love it.
Make
Well,
them an
hopefully they
expert picker for Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and FanDuel. What a great $5 bet. That's incredible.
By the way, the latest line at FanDuel, it remains the Browns -2.5 at the Colts this week. The over-under is 40 on the game.
All right,
Fairly
very good.
low over-under as well.
We're going to keep a close eye on that because it might move depending on what happens with Deshaun Watson today.
Yeah.
Last week we saw that line grow from, I think it started at 2.5 to 3, and it ended up in double digits.
It went to 10, actually went back to 9.5 the morning
Before
of the game.
kickoff.
Yeah,
but at one
right.
point it was double digits.
Yeah.
And that was all dependent on, Deshaun's not going to play. He's not
Right.
going to play. He's not going to play. And that spread started getting wider and wider. Right now, 2.5 points. Deshaun did not practice yesterday, so that's obviously not great news. He's to be determined for today. So he's day-to-day, but Stefanski has said if he can't go, P.J. Walker is his guy. He's going to get the start again, and why not? He did just enough to get the win over the 49ers. After weeks of mixed messaging here, and we know the problems that they had with trying to get this messaging on point,
Yeah.
it appears that they're finally at least on the same page with the messaging. Would you guys agree with that? That they've at least corralled that part of this?
I mean, I think yesterday they did. They were all saying the same things.
Right.
I'm sure they finally had a conversation about it. So that's good. In the end, all that matters, though, is does Deshaun Watson get back? When does he get back on the field?
Right. But it is good to see that
but
at
it's
least
good
the
that they
messaging
seem
is-
to be on the
because
same page,
before you
yeah.
had the coach saying he could play, the quarterback saying I was never cleared,
Yeah.
the general manager saying he is going to play, and then he didn't. So
Right.
it was all over the place.
I'm going to give him credit. I'm going to give him credit because, we like to get on Deshaun Watson when he doesn't say the right things sometimes.
Right.
And this time he saved everybody because he said the right things, and he absolutely had a slam dunk when he came out there and said, listen, here's a tear, so there's no more speculation on what it is, a bruise, anything. He let everybody know up front it's a tear.
Micro tear is what it's
Micro
called,
tear.
yes.
He also let everybody know that he's not going to be 100%. He doesn't feel this year. So he's letting people know, hey, I'm going to be fighting through some stuff the rest of this year. Also, he's like, look, it's day to day. I don't know if I'm going to be playing next week. I really want to get back out there, but it's day to day. We're working with this injury, and I'm doing my best to get back on the field. And then he finally put the nail in the coffin by saying, you know what? As an organization, as a coaching staff, as a training staff, and with me and my team, we are all on the same page in terms of how we're going to move forward and when I'm going to get back on the
My
field.
only problem with it is it took 3 weeks to get there, but
Yes.
they're there,
Yes.
so that's good. Bernie,
I-
obviously,
I-
weigh in on that and then talk about the injuries.
Yeah, I do like how the Browns handled it, and Big G, to your point about how the Deshaun awesomely handled yesterday, and typically, as athletes, as players, if you're the player and you go up there and you say, and you're the one to disclose this, I have a micro tear of my rotator, I have a broken ankle, I have a torn ACL. You're the Antichrist in the locker room.
Right.
So from the Browns' perspective, I really like how they're handling it. Okay.
Finally, I mean,
No,
you can't like how they handled it early
well,
on.
but even 3 weeks ago, again, and I'm not with the Browns. I'm absolutely not their marketing rep, nor Deshaun's marketing rep. But I get how 3 weeks ago this confusion could have happened.
Okay,
because-
enlighten us because none of us did.
Because a micro tear / a inflamed rotator at first doesn't always appear like it is torn.
Okay.
And then when you get your first couple opinions on it, now granted technology and medical diagnosis is better in 2023 than it was in the late 80s and early 90s, but ironically they still do some of the dumb treatments with cortisone shots and injections and that. So when it's really inflamed at the beginning, it sometimes is challenging to know, is it that micro tear? Because
That's fair, Bernie.
So then,
but why, if you're the general manager, then do you come out on Wednesday, because now you're more than a week removed from the injury, and say he is going to play against San Francisco, which at the time was 10 days away?
yeah, because I as a player was guilty, and I'm saying Deshaun did this, okay? But I know with that micro tear, with that inflamed rotator, and that you're initially told, or a micro tear that does not sound as bad, that as a player, you really do think you're going to heal. And there was move, and during that Ravens game, you actually saw post his decision not to play, you saw him lifting weights.
Right, and doing the bands.
And doing some awesome stuff that even in my prime with a healthy shoulder, I wasn't capable of doing.
Right.
So it absolutely lends itself to, oh my God, what is the bad messaging? But I don't really believe Deshaun himself knew it was as bad at that point, and he thought it was going to heal, just like Andrew Berry thought it was going to heal on that Wednesday also, because as a player on a Wednesday, if I'm like close to 80-90%, because I had this tear and it doesn't really hurt. So for the fans out there, they're saying he's not tough. Oh, it's too much pain. That is not at all the case. This doesn't really hurt that
What is
bad.
the problem then?
It
The
doesn't
accuracy?
hurt. That's why you think you're healthy, because it doesn't really hurt when we're sitting here, when you're hanging out, when you were resting on that Monday and Tuesday, that Wednesday morning before AB got up there and had that talk. You do feel kind of good. You do think, oh, God, give me 3 more days if
Sure.
I feel good today. So I could.
And at that time, he had 10 days.
Right.
Right. So like
the bye week.
But then you try to throw.
Well, then you try to throw,
Yeah.
but because it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm only trying to throw 50, 60, 70%. Look, I'm not trying to drill my 18-yard comebacks. I'm not trying to drop my 40-yard fades in the hole versus cover 2. If it's blitz 0, I got to loft up a 55 to 60-yard post route. Like, I'm not testing that, but I am testing it a little bit, and that in itself probably showed I thought it was going to be okay. So I actually understand how the Browns, and I've had my issues over years with the Browns, I actually see how that happened. I see how it happened with Deshaun.
Okay.
And then when you actually do, now it's 10 days, 2 weeks later, and now you go and you're the Q, and it's feeling good and you're lifting. And then all of a sudden, I was telling Bull, a lot of the stuff, it isn't the pain, it's on maybe 10 to 15% of your throws, you get like this involuntary twitch. You get this involuntary muscle movement. So look at me and Jay, dude, we're 4 yards apart, 12 feet. In my sleep, I could throw it to you. When I had this issue, I floated a check down 6 feet over the running back's head. So your accuracy
Because of that involuntary spasm.
yeah, and in a game where your quarterback is so magnified as to what he does, blowing 3 to 6 plays and being off and then causing 2 to 3 interceptions.
That could be the difference between
That
a win and a loss.
is the difference of it.
And Bernie, you were saying that because you played with the injury, and you were saying as you played, it got worse. It happened more often,
Yeah,
right?
so like I had this happen, and I had this happen in 1989. It's week 15. We're playing the Minnesota Vikings here at home. It ends up going into overtime. It's one of the coldest games ever. It was like minus 20 with the wind chill. It goes into overtime, but the field's frozen. And that was back when you were allowed to really do the things you shouldn't do to humans, on the field, at the bottom of piles and stuff. And I was getting my butt kicked from their pass rush, and the awesome, God bless him, I played against him in college at University of Pitt, Chris Dolman, Minnesota Vikings, Hall of Famer, love him, great friend. He killed me that day, okay? and I say that in jest. But that's how I got snapped. I had the micro tear of my shoulder.
Right.
Now it's week 17. We had a bye week then. We're going to go week 16 to Houston Astrodome. And if we win the game, we win the division. If we lose the game, Warren Moon and the Oilers win the division. And again, it's not right out there for young kids and young parents out there, but you live and died by football, okay?
Sure.
That was it. It was life and death. And it isn't saying this to be a drama queen and with the issues going on in our world and what's happening in the Gaza Strip and Israel right now, that there's way more important things in a football game, but not to me at that point. So, I decided to play with it. And I went and played that game, and we had Sunday Night Football, and I'm so proud. Man, I played really good, and we won the game. Then had a bye week, and because we won the division, the last time the Browns won the division in 1989, and I wasn't going to let that not happen. But then I figured I'd get the bye week and it would heal. Now I get to play Buffalo at home in a playoff game. And Jim Kelly was my mentor at the University of Miami. It's a playoff game for the Browns. So, like, there's zero chance I'm going to miss that. So even to the detriment possibly of the team, knowing that I could maybe blow a couple throws, you still feel like you could do it and you want to do it.
So you said it was like 10 or 15 throws. Did that increase when you came back and you didn't rest it against the Buffalo Bills? Did that go up to, say, 20 or 25 throws you had?
Well, because that game, I had a week off, and I kind of knew what was happening. And when you give me 2 weeks, I had a really good game plan, so I was able to manipulate some wide open guys to where if I was off a little bit, it didn't matter because they were so friggin' wide open to be able to beat Bruce Smith and that. So to have 2 exceptional games that again, it sounds terrible being on a show, I'm so proud of. I think it's kind of why a lot of people like me and are proud of my toughness.
That stretch put you on the map if you weren't already.
Doing those games and being 5 years, the first 5 years of my career, me, Marino, and Joe Flacco, the only ones to get our teams in the playoffs, and then to win a home game like that and crush the Bills, and the Bills are a team that didn't lose for 4 more years and culminated where I got the Super Bowl ring against them. But I say all that as background, not to promote myself. That was in December, January. Okay, the San Francisco game and the Baltimore Ravens game was weeks 5 and 6. This Indianapolis Colts game is week 7.
Yeah, he's
okay.
He's got
I then went to Denver for the AFC Championship game in 1989 with rubber bands on my finger. Big G, to your astute point, the 4 or 5 throws was 10 throws in Buffalo, but I was able to mask it and manipulate it with an exceptional game plan. By Denver, I was off. Okay, I blew about 4 throws. 2 were picked off. You can't do that. Okay, I'm sick to this day about it. I'm proud as hell. We won the division, beat Warren Moon. Proud that I beat Jim Kelly. Got to the 3rd AFC Championship game in 5 years. But I was not capable to play winning football that day, and I would not have been able to play winning football 2 weeks later. So I say that as not Deshaun Watson's apologist or marketing rep. Like, if he goes out there now and he runs more than me, and we're playing on AstroTurf this week, if I'm the defensive lineman, I hate to say this, parents, I'm drilling a shoulder into the ground.
Sure,
I'm going to accelerate and amplify that shoulder's hurt again. We may not forget the Frisco game right away, but we do forget these October games when it becomes December and January. And Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns, Coach Stefanski, we're all judged by what we do in December and January. And that's, if he kept playing, I believe if he would have played against Baltimore, played against Frisco, he could have maybe he could have done it. We could have maybe done it. But man, when we need the big dog, okay, in January, and this team is showing nobody wants to play us in January right now with this defensive line.
But you got to get to January.
We got to get there. I got it. I got you.
So which
you gotta
quarterback
get there.
are you going out and signing?
But the quarterback. But look at how the 49ers defense was so killer coming into that game. And we don't have Deshaun Watson, and we don't have Joel Bitonio. Okay, and DeJuan Jones is the right tackle, and we've been abusing Jedrick Wills, and still Coach Callahan and Coach Stefanski get us north of 160 yards rushing. That travels. Nobody.
So you're saying just keep running the rock,
figure it
playing
out,
that great defense, and wait for Deshaun to get healthy whenever that might be.
Figure it out. And if you get it, I know, okay, I'm a homer. I'm a Cleveland guy. I want to play all home Cleveland playoff games. This team just, Jimmy Johnson line, somehow, some way, get to the playoffs. Because with running the ball and stopping the run. That travels.
Bernie,
man.
let's say he sits for a month, another month. He's already been out. This will be 4 weeks, I think.
Well, 4 weeks from the injury on Sunday.
Yeah. So let's say he sits for 8 weeks and then comes back. Is he still going to have this issue?
Okay, so
Without it's a different person. You never know.
You had a whole off season to heal.
I'm launching the KosarWellness.com today, October 19th. This isn't a plug to start talking about my health and wellness, but it's absolutely those injuries and those type things are absolutely how I've come to figure out how to do my health and wellness right now. And one of the big phrases, I love the University Hospital, Dr. Voos, and what the orthopedic people do with the Cleveland Browns there, okay? But in the old days, Dr. Voos was not my doctor, and we had some really good doctors, John Bergfeld in the Cleveland Clinic. But after I left some of those docs, there were doctors that I had in my past who would always say to, you can't do any more damage. You've done as much damage as possible.
Right.
So, Bull, to your question, the micro tear does not go away, and you can do more damage for it. So the answer you'll probably start hearing is we're going to strengthen the muscles in and around it to help protect it. So the statistical chance that it is 100% healed in a month to 100% probably isn't there, but do you get it strong enough to where the involuntary twitches, the involuntary muscle movements, not that again, it does not that it hurts, it just makes you not play good.
Yeah.
Okay, and interceptions are worse than death. Okay, so there's nothing worse than that.
Right.
So, and again, we're probably up against a break and stuff. We yelled and we fought, and I got people saying he's afraid of the pain. We had Baker Mayfield go out there and play through this, okay? And like we were saying earlier, and if you blow your half dozen plays out of toughness, out of will to win, out of love for our brothers in the locker room, that you want to let the guy down, and all of a sudden you don't make a couple plays, they're going to crucify you more. And look what it's done for Baker's career. And I love what Baker did. I did it. I was that person. I played through it. There was no doctors that were going to talk to me. But I know I would not have, at that age, I would have probably talked him into it. And then I know I'd have been useless in December. I'd probably have been useless.
If you were the Browns, knowing what you went through, and he's dealing with the same injury, and that he's probably not going to be 100% no matter what happens this year, do you, like, as good as the defense is, right? The running game played well last week, but it's been inconsistent since Nick Chubb went out. But knowing you have what appears to be a championship-level defense, you can't, in this day and age, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback as bad as P.J. Walker, in my opinion, no matter how good your defense is. But I think you could win. You could certainly win it with a Kirk Cousins, maybe even an Andy Dalton. I don't know how much Andy Dalton's got left, but at least he's been in the league. Would you go out and try to get a at least serviceable veteran that's in the league and playing right now just to have an upgrade over Walker if Watson just can't get to 100%?
So it's a super fair question.
Yeah.
I am mostly fixated on what's currently happening. I really like how P.J. Walker somehow, some way used the Jimmy Johnson line and showed a real coolness or calmness to winning the game. But you're probably right, to get to the promised land, okay, there probably would want to be another level of backup QB. But I'm not overly fixated on that, more as how to the Deshaun and him getting healed, and or best getting him healed to get him to where he is close enough to healthy in these playoff games / playoff run in December.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a plug to some of the stuff I'm doing because I had the injury, but because I had the injury and I fixated on some of the wrong ways that were treated. And unbelievably, don't you dare anybody do a cortisone shot out there. Okay, that caveman way of doing stuff, they still do that for us men.
I'm sure
Okay.
Deshaun had one.
So, but that inhibits and delays the ability to heal when I need you healed or I want you healed.
It's a
in
Band-Aid,
a couple
that's
months.
it.
It's a Band-Aid. We don't need the Band-Aid for October. Okay, there's a master's program of health and wellness that I do that is legal, healthy, and organic as opposed to medically and pharmaceutical based.
Let me ask you a question, and I hate to go back to this, but on the messaging point, you said you were okay with it because they probably didn't know. wouldn't it still have been a better look, knowing that, look, maybe he won't be ready? I think what we had a problem with was the coach had said on Monday he could have gone, he was cleared, he chose not to. Put Deshaun in a bad light. 2 days later, in an effort to dig out of that hole, the general manager said, however, he will play in 10 days. Wrong again. I don't think they protected Deshaun Watson or did him any favors at all. Why not say, Bernie, on Wednesday, if you're the GM, look, we're dealing with a pretty serious injury to the mechanic that is the engine to throwing the football. Our hope is that he's on the field in 10 days from now against San Francisco. But we don't know, so we're going to take a wait and see approach. Yeah. I just think they didn't do him any favors by saying, yeah, he's going to play. Yeah, he could have played.
I concur with that, but again, I feel like I'm PJB for the Browns defending him. And again, just objectively, I absolutely get how that happened, as I was saying earlier.
I understand that,
because they should have erred on the cause. I do think the way you characterized Stefanski's comments a little unfair. I don't think
he was cleared to play. Okay, let me try to fix that.
Yeah.
He was cleared to play yesterday.
Yeah.
But he made the decision not to.
Right. Okay, yeah, that's better.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know how I said it, but I do want to be fair and accurate.
Yeah, no, I think that's better.
And then on Wednesday, 2 days later, when the general manager comes out and says, yeah, he's going to play
we expect
against
him to
San
play.
Francisco.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think that
the messaging was bad. I think they've had better messaging this week.
They're finally on the right page.
Because they beat the Niners, I think nobody's really worried about it.
But into the Browns' defense and in why players need, and it's good to have second opinions. And again, I like Dr. Vuz, and I really like what UH does, is the ability to diagnose a micro tear at times with massive inflammation.
Yes, very difficult.
So in the first 72 to 96 hours, those 3 to 4 days, you could miss it.
The MRI didn't show that Nick Chubb had a torn ACL.
Right.
I had an MRI on a knee that had a torn ACL, and they said, we're not sure. We'll know when we go in.
I think the question now, guys, based on what Bernie has told us, and obviously Bernie is not Deshaun. They're two different human beings.
Sure.
But this is as close to what Deshaun is going through as humanly possible.
I think
the exact same injury for a professional quarterback for the same team.
Right.
Okay? And even though everybody's body is a little different, this is the closest possible example we can have.
Best example.
My question to all of us is, based on the knowledge Bernie just gave us that nobody else has, what do the Browns do?
I'm going to stick to my assessment that I've said all along. He doesn't put a foot on the football field until he is 100%.
But Bernie...
I know, but Bernie also said involuntarily the ball might sail. If that happens at the most critical time of the game, a win becomes a loss.
Exactly. But he said that maybe with an extra month, he's close enough that that's not going to happen.
I need to see in practice that out of his 50 throws, none of them involuntarily sail 6 feet over the receiver's head.
He can't play in a big game.
No, if that is a symptom of this injury, I can't put him out there.
Let me gather a few more nuggets of information. Are you more likely to re-hurt that shoulder in a contact type of deal where you get hit, drove into the turf, or are you able to re-injure this thing if you're just trying to get a lot on the ball? Say he's trying to get driving downfield and he's trying to get something on.
That's a good question.
Great point. So that's why I'm trying to buy time. Okay, so there's a different mindset that is in the middle of the season to try to survive the end of the season. So yes, you could hurt it more by getting driven into the ground. So by, say, a month or 6 weeks from now, the chance of it getting hurt by just a throwing motion, a involuntary twitch when he's just throwing, is probably real less likely. Then the part is the getting slammed into the ground. And then if I was more involved with them, and I don't say this for young parents, young kids out there, don't do this, but we're the pros now, so it's different, is I would have my mindset at the end of the season. So if it's one thing to play and know you could get through 2, 3, 4 games, there'll be a stage where if it's still out there and it gets hurt, you may want to still consider.
Did you ever need surgery on the micro tear to your rotator cuff, or did it heal and you played the rest of your career and it was never an issue for you?
To this day, this is as straight as my right arm goes. This is not a cheap excuse to
That's
show
the
my
elbow,
Super
isn't it?
Bowl ring. It's
That
the elbow
that
and
is
shoulder.
terrifying, Bernie.
No, it's the elbow's terrible, okay, but the shoulder is. So
The shoulder is okay.
By the
terrible.
way, I don't
No,
think
it's
Terrible,
terrible.
too. So you never had surgery to fix it?
No, I had a little surgery. It didn't fix it. I had
Yeah.
it too late.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's too, and then the cortisone. It's why I'm so into my holistic healing and what to do. Proteolytic enzymes. Please don't do the anti-inflammation ones, and don't do the cortisone shots. It doesn't work. I was joking with Bull. Look, I want to act like a tough guy here. I don't even want to shake hands anymore because your hand melts. It falls off.
Wow.
Okay.
By the way, Bernie's
it doesn't work.
We have to acknowledge. I don't know this. We've never talked about this before. Not that you don't know this from when he played, but maybe like Bernie's hands and fingers are huge.
Well,
Huge.
They always have been. Helps you.
And
They're
they're all broken. It's a center.
I think he would call it arthritis, Bull.
Yeah.
It had to help when you played, though.
Right, yeah.
There's been a lot of talk recently about having small hands.
I mean, I guess the bottom
anyway.
line of this whole thing is you're telling us that he needs to be as close to 100% as he could be, and that might not be Sunday in Indy. It might not be next Sunday
Right, and
when they play Seattle.
Look, he can't be 100% right now. So what I'd be worried about, I want to see him play, okay? But what I'd absolutely be worried about, if I was his buddy, if I was his coach, and even if I wasn't his buddy, if I just wanted to win the Super Bowl, okay, and I just wanted him to be here quarterbacking for the stretch run and for the playoffs, I wouldn't want him get his shoulder jammed into the
It's
pavement.
almost like it's
I would-
Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
and the Browns have
So
a
you-
do-over on what happened with Baker Mayfield.
Exactly. So look, they're going. If he plays in October and November, and it isn't healed, the statistical chance that it's going to get drilled into the ground, that you're coming through, and
With every
the
throw, it
guy
goes up.
whacks me, he hits me over here, I fall over here like that. It's going to happen.
Let me ask you this, Bernie.
And wait, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Real
And
We have
how-
some news on P.J. Walker.
No,
Right.
on Deshaun Watson.
Oh, I
Amari
thought you said
Cooper,
P.J.
Oh.
Amari Cooper just said that Deshaun's going to practice today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he
That's-
could be back in the field as soon as 1 o'clock
Now,
this afternoon.
I'm guessing, is this where they're going to really put the eyeballs on him and test whether or not he can drive those outside the number?
Yeah.
What kind of throws he can make, because it's still early enough. If there's throws he can't make, you can still put a game plan together, like you said, for against Buffalo, that allows him to make the throws he's comfortable with and not have to make the ones that he can't make.
Correct, except, and thanks, man, for that information, but I want to yell out there and say, don't try to go 100% right now because you're still Big G. You're so right. I'm still at the ability or possibility of tearing it, the micro tear.
With a throw.
With a throw, okay? So if I'm 75% and I'm feeling good and I tweak it with a power throw, it's now not a micro tear, it's a torn rotator, and now he's done for the year.
Yeah, we
okay,
can't have
so
that.
that is the possibility. So they know that, so they're not going to go 100% today. But again, I know the kid wants to play. He doesn't want to deal with this stuff. He likes playing.
Players play.
And but what he did in that awesome game, okay, where we dominated, okay, he was running the ball and he was hitting his check down. So the arm may have been slightly torn then beforehand. So with him running the ball as much as he is to kind of get his timing back, I think he's opening himself up to issues now to where I think he could get through this game on Sunday. Like I got through a couple games and I actually played really good and people will say, okay, it's cool. But then late December, okay, and it's 25-mile-an-hour winds. And it's cold.
Every throw takes mustard down.
Everything's hard, even in perfection. Like it's a torture to throw at our stadium. And I pride myself. I'm not statistically a good quarterback, but I prided myself that I was a better statistical quarterback than the other guy.
Right.
Okay,
That's what
because
you need
it's
to do.
torture to play there, even in good health. So
Sure.
I don't want to see him having to try to throw
I still would sit him.
You know what?
I wouldn't play him.
Yeah.
You know what makes, based on what Bernie has said here, and like we're not Deshaun, we don't know what's going on inside his body. You would assume that he's going to make the best decision for himself, but you never know with players, as
Right.
Bernie has said. What seems to make the most sense is to bring him back for the Baltimore game on November 22nd.
Yeah.
That would be 2 months. That would be 2 days shy of 2 full months, so basically 2 months.
Yeah.
You could win the next 3 games. You're at the Colts, at the Seahawks, Cardinals at home. Whoever's their quarterback, they should be able to win that Colts game and the Cardinals game. The Seahawks game on the road, that's obviously a lot tougher. But I think they can win 2 of the next 3 with even P.J. Walker. And if you do that, well, then you're 5-4 and hopefully get a healthy Watson for the final, 8 games of the year.
It's a good plan, and maybe they go into Indy
I don't
that
know that
way.
they're gonna
But
do that.
if they do, and PJ looks terrible, and they lose that game, it does put a bigger priority on getting them ready for Seattle.
Yes.
Because if you're losing at Indy, the likelihood that you're going to go to Seattle and beat the Seahawks there, it's not
right.
good.
But if you lose him in Seattle, now the trade deadline is passed and you have no other options and
other
everything.
than signing someone who's on the streets,
Right.
which probably isn't.
And who hasn't played.
You want someone that's at least in practice. They went through a camp. They're on a roster right now,
Right.
and they're ready today.
Yeah, it's been a while since Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan have played. We saw how rusty Watson was.
Yeah, I don't even know Matt Ryan's an option. Isn't he
Yeah.
calling games for CBS?
He is.
All right, McNuggets, what do you got?
I got to read for you guys before we move on to our next topic. If you are ever in the need of emergency antibiotics, then Jace Medical is the place to go for any of your last-second needs. Jace is continually working to expand their medication offerings. In those recent efforts, they've often added ivermectin as an option. In the Jace case, head over to jacemedical.com. Enter Locked On at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code Locked On at jacemedical.com, JASE medical.com.
Very good. Thank you. Let's talk about some other injuries. Feel like we're on the show MASH.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
seeing.
A good day to talk health and wellness for me.
Yes,
huh?
it
Having
is.
me on,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, the Browns can use some of that right now. Yesterday, Walker, a no-go in practice.
He has a concussion.
Right, he's in protocol. Harrison Bryant did not play or did not practice. Newsom was out. Hunt was out. I think Hunt's got a thigh.
Correct.
Of those 4 guys, which of the 4 would be the biggest loss for the Browns if they can't play on Sunday?
I think it's easy. To me, it's Anthony Walker. He is the leader of the defense, right? He's calling the plays defensively.
Where's the
Like
sticker?
he's the mouthpiece for Schwartz on the field.
Yeah.
And he's not an elite player, but he's a good, solid, steady player in the middle of that defense. The linebacking, as much as we've talked about the defensive line, because it's been great, the Browns linebackers were the worst in football last year. This year they've stayed healthy with basically the same guys, and they've been way better. And Anthony Walker and JOK are the 2 biggest reasons why. I can live without Kareem Hunt. I can go with Jerome Ford. I could give Pierre Strong an opportunity. Harrison Bryant, who cares? And I got 3 great corners if I'm the Browns. I could live without one we already have for a week. I don't want to lose not my best linebacker, but because unbelievably that's probably been JOK. But Anthony Walker, I think, is my most important linebacker. So that's how I
you
feel
concur?
about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Anthony Walker. You could say Newsom, but it's hard to do that when you already have Emerson and Denzel Ward playing as well as they are. Plus the secondary with Delpit and Thornhill has been playing well. So you got a lot of infrastructure around those guys in the secondary. I'm amazed how well that the linebacker core, 5 and 6, Taki. These guys are playing well. I mean, it's the same people. And matter of fact, all 3 of them are coming off injuries. So
It's incredible what a beefed up defensive line can
Yes.
do for your linebacking core.
And it's
Beefed
They're
up
not
D-line
hurt
and
because
health. Yeah.
they don't have linemen coming with
killing 'em.
no chip
Right.
and taking out the second level.
Yeah, they're playing well. And it's a thing when you start attacking. It's something to be said about when you're attacking. When you're attacking, it seems like I played in a 3-4 and a 4-3. And when we played in a 3-4, you're doing a lot of moving side to side, catching linemen, trying to hold them up so they don't get to the next level. And it's funny how when you're the aggressor, when you are out there attacking, it seems like you don't get as injured as much. You're like, man, I'm delivering the blow here. That's why offensive linemen like to come off the ball and hit people in the face and not have to sit back and pass block when they know it's coming. The aggressor always seems to be healthier, a little faster, a little quicker. So I think that's changed the way that they play defense. And if Anthony Walker can't play, is that going to mean the Browns defense is going to be bad? No. I just think that will be a thing that, next guy up. But I think they got enough playmakers to cover up for that.
Do you agree with that, Bernie?
Yeah, I don't want to be a conformist with all of us here, but
That's okay. I'm going to go in other directions.
Hey, with Indy running the ball, with Gardner Minshew playing, or with Anthony Richardson, they're a running football team. Anthony Walker's essential in there from the middle linebackers stopping the run perspective. It's mitigated with this awesome Jim Schwartz defensive line to help that out. I'm kind of fixated on Joel Petonio coming back, awesomely showing his toughness, but 2 weeks coming back, although he's not on the injury list, how he comes back from that.
He had knee surgery 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
like God, I'm not circling back from a business side on what I'm doing health and wellness wise, but these guys really need to, coming back, you know that you're really not healed from 2 weeks coming back.
No.
So Joel, I love his toughness. I love his streak. It's terrible that, he had to lose his streak for someone as so much pride that he does, but God, some of the injuries that these guys are doing, some of the wellness stuff I'm doing, they really need to get
Bernie,
some of this.
do you think, I talk about the Kool-Aid all the time. Do you think they're intoxicated a little bit? When you get a win, right, against a team like the 49ers, and you have to sit on the sideline and watch your teammates celebrate, it puts a little onus on you. You're like, listen, man, I want to get back out. I want to be part of this.
It causes it. 100%, Garrett. You nailed it. 100%. You want to. So I say this line a lot. We have to a lot of times protect us from ourselves. Yeah, you want to get back out.
Yeah, there needs to be an adult in the room.
Yeah, and we're not the adult. I'm not the adult at that age.
A couple of years ago with Baker, there wasn't one, and they let him go. That's why, I told a joke, what do you tell a guy that has two black eyes? Nothing. He didn't listen the first 2 times. Like, this is a Groundhog Day moment for the Browns. And, if you've got injuries that can manifest themselves and lead into, missing 5 games, 6 games a season, step up, be the adult, and tell the player he's sitting down, period.
Yeah, that's sadly a perfect set of advice and analogy. And I would say even to the Browns, and I love our fans. I would shoot it out to our fans here. We have to, whether you're for or against what's going on, you got to be patient with Deshaun and this decision, because I'm proud of me playing through all those injuries. I played with a broken ankle. I played with this screwed up micro tear, and I could barely get out of bed. It's as I trend towards 60 right now. We watched Baker go and do this, and we watched his career really implode the last 2 football.
Your buddy Leroy was here earlier this week, and you know what he said to your point right there? He said, I love the Cleveland fan base, but the biggest problem with them is impatience. They don't. It's not a patient bunch.
I don't agree with that at all.
Well, here was where he was trending with that comment. Everybody's quick to want to fire the coach. Get rid of him. Move on. Move on. Move on. And when you do that over and over and over again, you set any progress that coach may have made with implementing his system and his players, and you set it back to ground zero and reset it every time. So, listen, I've been a part of this fan base for 50 years. I might be the most impatient one of all. I'm running out of years. I don't want someone to put me in the dirt before I see this team win a Super Bowl, so I'm really getting impatient. But I think I disagree with you, Bull, and I agree with Leroy. As a whole, this fan base wants it and wants it now.
But they should. Why should they? They have a reason to be impatient.
And that's why they're impatient.
But they haven't been impatient because they still go to games and fill up that stadium, even though it's been the worst franchise in the sport.
That's loyal. That's loyalty.
But what?
The Browns fan base is loyal.
Every fan base of a losing team wants the coach fired. Every fan base, no
Yes,
exception.
but the problem is we've been in that cycle for 35 years.
And who's the coach they shouldn't have fired? They all sucked.
Bull, we're not arguing that. We're arguing the fact whether or not the Browns fan base is impatient.
I don't think they're any more impatient than any other fan base.
I disagree.
Shout out to McNuggets because this is a diagram. Y'all didn't even know it. On the x-axis is loyalty. On the y-axis is patience. Usually you get a divorce somewhere belong over 5 or 6 because loyalty always wanes when people's patience get low.
Steelers fans want Tomlin fired. Patriots fans want Belichick fired. And those guys have won Super Bowls. But that's impatience.
Yeah, but Bull, those teams that you just mentioned have sat with head coaches for 20-year stretches.
Okay, so
this fan base sees one little inkling of something out of a coach they don't like, and he's got to go.
Nah, I don't buy that.
No?
I don't buy that.
Because yesterday you were saying Stefanski needs more time. And we were arguing are the fans being out of pocket by saying that they don't want him here anymore.
What I don't buy is that it's any different than any other fan base.
Leroy wasn't comparing it to any other fan bases.
Right.
What he was saying was the one thing that I will say about the Browns fan base that can be construed as negative is that they're impatient.
But I think if every fan base is impatient, which I think it is, then that's just a negative on fans in general. Of course fans are impatient. You want to win now. I get it.
Yeah, but the point is you want that quarterback out there now. Got to have him out there now. And there's already fans that are questioning his toughness.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of where my head went. I love the math equation, so I'm going to get my graph out there as an old math major.
I get my teeth into that, too.
Yeah, liking some algorithms that got me through some of my challenges and stuff. But actually, that's the loyalty and patience thing had my brain really fixated. And again, I love our fans, and I love the passion that we have for it. I pride myself on my toughness, but as it pertains to Deshaun Watson, and again, I ain't saying this to cover for him. This isn't about toughness. He is tough. He can handle it.
But
our
some
fans,
fans
it's not a question of toughness.
What did you think of your buddy Hanford Dixon and his comments?
I didn't see my boy on it. Yeah.
All right, well, here's what Hanford Dixon said, and it shocked me. I love Hanford.
Yeah.
Love him. Loved him as a player. Met him outside of his career. Wonderful guy. Love his all of his opinions, except this one. He said, I'm sorry, players play. You couldn't keep me off the field. Now, we looked. He did miss game because of injury. Yeah. Not a lot.
Late in his
he
career.
was tough. I'll never question his toughness. I was shocked that Deshaun had to take friendly fire on his toughness.
Yeah, I
didn't love that.
I'm that 80s guy. I'm that 80s player, and I played at all costs, even at the detriment of me, and selfishly. I didn't think it was at the detriment of the team, but it could have been at the detriment of the team. And fortunately, God blessed me that when I did take those chances, it wasn't at the detriment of the team.
Right.
But it could have easily gone south of that. So,
but you figured it out in time, and I would have thought that most former players that are 30 years removed from their career would also say, look, if he can't go, he can't go. He's the only one that can tell us whether or not he can play. I'm not going to throw darts at the guy because he can't play.
But again, sometimes we get caught up. I know I've got caught up in my answers sometimes, and sometimes in the moments. And actually, as part of my healing and sitting here being healed, or as close to healed as I've been this century, I'm not completely healed. And there are sometimes things, and I'm not saying what Hanford said was ignorant, but I will say as it pertains to me, sometimes there are things that I have said and that hopefully don't do too much of in the future that are ignorant, or I want back, or not correct. I wish I was saying this for attention or to set up the NFL concussion lawsuit that they keep denying us for. The TBI is real. We're forgetful. And sometimes in moments, things come out that we don't really get out the right way.
I had a chat conversation over the last couple of days with Chidi Ahanatu. I don't know if you remember Chidi.
Yeah.
He was part of that Bucs great defense.
Yeah.
His life has just been...
That's tough.
And he told me, Bernie, what he's going through now is the lawyer that he thought was helping him.
Oh, no, they're not helping us. They're on the other side.
Well, he's now suing him because he decided midstream to suddenly turn against him. in depositions and in different pieces of evidence.
Oh,
And he sent this to me,
the law-
and I was floored by it.
The law profession that was supposedly helping us is a lot of people were not on our side, and then
It's a bad look for the NFL because it's going to get out.
Forget that it's a bad look for the NFL. We're not cognitively capable of handling this much more duress. I lost another teammate, a Chagrin High School graduate. This is tough stuff to talk about. I don't say this for drama or shock effect or for this show. Okay, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Here in October. It's a great cause, what I'm doing with my wellness and being able to help families and ladies who have had this issue, and being able to work on your health to help your body heal itself. Well, September was Suicide Prevention Month. Like 6 Thursdays ago was International Overdose Awareness Day. 2 of those 3 things I just brought up, Suicide Prevention Month and International Overdose Awareness Day, I could have or should have been any one of those statistics and stuff.
You could have easily.
I've had teammates and friends. Me and Dave Durson, Junior Seau started this health and wellness journey together. Those 2, we did not find the answer at the right time, and those 2 succumbed to the issues that are going on with our head. Had a great teammate, Chagrin High School graduate, Notre Dame graduate, national champion, lineman for me in 92 and 93, Bob Dahl, committed suicide last month. I mean, these are real issues.
Mike Webster.
Mike Webster, I had the honor of taking snaps from him in the Pro Bowl, okay, and seeing how small Mike Webster was, and that he had to live and block Mean Joe Green, who's one of the sweetest humans in the world, and he wasn't mean. He was one of my football coaches at the University of Miami, at the Miami Dolphins at the end. But the ramifications of some of the injuries and some of the stuff, we don't die pretty at the end. I mentioned the awesome Chris Dolman, who was crushing me when I had the micro tear. Probably he caused it. Okay, he's laying on top of me during that game. Average life expectancy, there was a stat for NFL players that play more than 7 years, his life expectancy of 57 years old. I'm 59. Wow. I played against some amazing D linemen. Chris Dolman, Hall of Famer. Reggie White, Hall of Famer. Jerome Brown. God, I wear that shirt. You see me with Michael Kosar, who was the Detroit Lions. Crushed me. They're all dead. And they all died terrible. So these are kind of things that you're trying to figure out as you go through. And these are decisions that something just playing through it, and guys saying stuff. I get like us saying it, but even if it was Hanford or somebody saying that he should play, I wanted to play. If you play with this injury, you won't be able to dress up in January.
Yeah, and I think that's the big takeaway.
Before
we wrap this topic, because I did disagree. I'm going off the idea that PJ is going to be the starter. And so as important as Walker is to the defense, I got a lot of other dudes over there. I'm going to be okay on that side of the ball. If PJ Walker is the quarterback, the guy I'm missing most is Kareem Hunt, because I feel like he's just now rounding into shape where we want him to be. He runs hard. We know that. The run game is going to be incredibly important if P.J. Walker is the quarterback. Mm-hmm. We need to be able to move the football. And I do know that we've got Pierre Strong, and it looks like Ford is also getting better with each effort.
Than Hunt.
But I need Kareem Hunt. He's versatile. He can catch passes out of the backfield. I love his effort. I think our defense should be just fine missing Anthony Walker.
Real quick question on that before we move on, Mike. Bernie, if Anthony Walker's the guy with the green dot, he's calling the plays on the field. How much of an adjustment is that to have another guy do that?
Great point. And, God, I don't want to say like I'm on the fence nor too agreeable, but, boy, very persuasive argument there. That was really well done. And I'm not saying that to be gratuitous or nice. I actually concur with that. In the old days, great question, the play caller was challenging. That's how we were able to steal signals so good because, I mean, it was so great. And people say, oh, you stole signals. Well, if you're dumb enough to go 4-3 under cover 2, I'm allowed to steal it.
That's true.
That's your fault.
That's
okay?
fair, yeah.
And hey, and in the old days, zone coverage was, Garrett was saying it, 3-4 cover 3. 4-3 under cover 2. Those are zone defenses. The blitzes was 4-3 under, Mike at 7, a weak safety at 2. So any long-winded signal was a blitz man back in the old days. So
That's
it was
so crazy that they made it so easy.
That's where Bernie's a savant.
Oh, it was too simple.
Not everybody.
It was too
So
simple.
for you, it was.
you,
because
yeah.
you're playing chess while these
God.
guys are playing checkers.
And then they would do it like you'd be playing like the Cincinnati Bengals, orange and brown, and the guy calling it would have a big old black outfit on just to really stand out. So even concussed, I could see what he's signaling and stuff.
Great stuff. All right, Mike, you got to read?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but to
We're
get
gonna
to
move-
it.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
With a microphone now,
Yeah.
it's easier for that other guy
new
to
guy.
step in
Not
because
as big of a
the
jump.
coach is
He's
talking
just
to
he's
him.
just repeating it.
Yeah.
He's repeating what he's hearing.
Yeah, he's supposed to be repeating what he's hearing.
All right, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Tonight at 3 o'clock, I should say this afternoon, the barbershop. G. Bush is giving out some Kool-Aid Mafia swag on the show. G, do you want to show what you are handing out to the good people who tune in today?
Yeah. So let's get to it, man. For years and years, I was distraught about these these yellow towels being waved in our stadium.
The terrible
The
towel.
terrible towels are horrible, and for years we've had nothing. So with my foresight, I said, listen, I need some orange. I knew the Browns need a towel of some sort. And I said, well, listen, if you drink Kool-Aid, you might as well have a towel with the Kool-Aid Mafia on it. And look how we go. Look at this thing.
Those are big.
Oh,
too.
yeah, this is prime color right here.
That's
Look,
twice the size
Twice
as
the size of a
terrible
terrible
towel.
towel. So only half the stadium has to have them. You can put this in your pocket. You can put this on your neck. There's a bandana. You can make it a cape. You can put it on the back, and you can tie it around your neck. It could be anything. The Kool-Aid Mafia, we're giving away 2. These are the rally flags. We're giving away 2 of these on the show tonight. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the barbershop UCSS. You can get one of these too. And by the way, you can catch this. You can get this now at Bushline Beauty /barbershop if you don't want to wait on it. You don't want to wait. It's all good.
So with that, it is
P.T.
time
Barnum
to play
right here,
a
baby.
new game of...
GVC,
Bushline? What is that?
Bushline Beauty.
Bushline Beauty. I gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, we do cosmetics, Bertie. We
I
got
don't leave the
cosmetics.
house without some sort of Bushline beauty product on it.
We got
cologne.
I got a cologne.
got
I got some. They're vegan too, so they're vegan-based cosmetics.
important.
I
to me.
need that cologne because Bull's moving away from me. He's distancing himself from my odor right now. Okay? I've got the big beak here, all right? It's partly why I
Hey,
don't...
not bigger than mine, Bernie.
All right, so 3 o'clock, the barbershop. Don't miss it.
Yeah.
3 o'clock, the
Be there, be
barbershop
square.
right now at 11:57 a.m. on this lovely Thursday afternoon. It's time to play a little game of No Fence Riders, Browns Colts edition. Bernie has never been a guest with us when we've done No Fence Riders. This will be his first test into the No Fence Rider realm. Bernie, it's a yes or no answer. There's no in between. You got to pick a side of the fence, and you are going to be the first to answer these questions as our guest. Then I'll tell you how the rest of the lovely panel answered. Steve, are you ready to take the first question of No Fence Riders? Bernie Kosar, will a Browns receiver catch a touchdown pass this weekend versus Indy through 5 games? In totality, the Browns receivers have 1 touchdown catch.
And
Yes or
that's
no?
I know that's embarrassing, but
In totality.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm looking at Big G here with his thumbs down there, and I want to.
don't read into that.
I'm not reading into that.
Okay.
I'm Mr. Positive. I'm going yes.
So he says yes. Bernie says yes. Bernie is joining the party on the yes side of the fence because not only did Bernie say yes, but so did Earl, G, Tyvis, Bull, Jay, and myself,
Jason's
Jason.
still not
Angry
buying
Jason.
in.
The only one who thinks the streak continues.
I know what Jason would say if he were here, because this is what he always does when he answers a question like this. History tells me they won't. So I'm going with history.
Actually, they've scored 5 touchdowns, right? The wide receivers?
No,
No, he scored 1
scored
touchdown.
1.
Oh, 1.
That's one.
Yeah, Bull, it's been that bad.
Well, history
so-
tells you that wide receivers do catch touchdown passes. Just
Not for the Browns. Just not for the
But
Browns.
the Colts are probably, I'm thinking about this quickly, by far the worst defensive team the Browns have played this year.
Fact.
They've played all good defensive teams, or at least adequate.
Boy, Baltimore, they sure shut down Baltimore. which I still can't figure out.
And then last week they got boat
and
raced
that
by
game
Jacksonville.
was in Baltimore.
Yeah, but you can't, like,
I know.
you can't judge based on
I
just
know,
one game.
but I can't erase that from my mind.
I know,
That's
but
what I'm saying.
in the 6, I don't know if they've had a bye. In the 5 or 6 games they've played, overall they've been poor defensively. They're the worst team the Browns have played. I don't know which camera to look at now. Which camera am I looking at right now? 2?
You're over here.
See,
Yeah, you're over there
you
now,
see
bro.
how
Yes.
hard my job is?
It's tricky. So I think they will. First of all, Amari Cooper has played very well considering that the quarterback play outside of the Tennessee game has been awful. So Amari's played well. He's due for a touchdown. And the rest of the guys in the wide receiving core, I don't trust any of them. But I trust Amari. They got to get him in the end zone, and they will this week.
I tell you, I like how Amari's been running routes and absolutely getting open. I know it doesn't fit into the wide receiver category, but David Njoku and how he's been playing and implementing him, I OCD obsess on the fade route. And Chief at 6'6" and his athleticism in a way.
They should do
like
that
I'd be hard pressed at 60 years old not to do that about every time I'm down there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's worked for years for other teams. It's really sad that through 5 games that the team's receiving core has 1 touchdown. The reason I said yes is opposite of Jason's argument. They're due.
Well, how many passing touchdowns do they have total? 4? 5?
I don't know.
In totality, they have 4 touchdowns. All 4 were from Deshaun Watson. They have 7 interceptions. Deshaun has 2. Walker has 2. DTR has 3.
Yeah, so they've thrown 4 touchdowns. It's not just the receivers. I mean, there's more receivers, but
Bernie, you love Amari Cooper. Who was the guy you played with that was closest to Amari Cooper's skill set?
So I got to be sensitive because I love all the guys I played with and stuff. But, you know, it depends, too, on the situation. And I'm not trying to play the fence on this. There's no doubt the Webster Slaughter and the blitz coverage against bump and run technique.
You guys killed it.
You know, Brian Brennan and what he did on that 3rd and 3 to 6 and those getting open to extend drives. And then we talked at length today about the awesome Chris Dolman and that Minnesota Vikings game. Reggie Langhorne, in certain conditions, with his athleticism and his physicalness. And I actually like this today, not where I'm trending and still answering the Amari Cooper line. So Amari Cooper's a bigger guy, okay, and he has really good footwork, and he knows how to create separation. So
Is that Reggie?
And that was Reggie.
Yeah.
In any situation, and Reggie was never caught. So if Reggie got open, he wasn't caught from behind.
Wow.
And Amari Cooper he seems to get open, and he doesn't seem to get caught right now. So he's making those big plays, and that separation that he's able to create in that intermediate area of 12 to 18 yards.
Right.
That was Langhorne. God, he was so good with that.
I loved watching him. He was great.
Yeah, so when you develop that bond and that rapport with somebody, Amari Cooper's ripe to develop a rapport with the quarterback. And then, for him to be making these plays now with 3 quarterbacks like this, it's special.
All right, Mike, what's next?
Question number 2. Za'Darius Smith has yet to record a sack as a Cleveland Brown. Will his first sack of the season come on Sunday against the Colts? Bernie, you're up first. Yes or no?
Yes.
And Bernie once again joining the majority here, but it's not as much of a majority because Bull is playing the Jason card going against the numbers. He said no. The rest of us, including JG, myself, and Earl, and even Jason, say it's happening.
Why no, Bull?
Well, if you look at Za'Darius Smith last year, right? Mm-hmm. He had, I don't remember the exact total of sacks he had last year, but he had almost all of them.
10 sacks.
I think
But I think he had 8 or 9 in
Yeah.
the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, since the middle of the last year, he's got like 1 or 2 sacks. We're talking almost a full season.
Yeah.
So he's getting old. He's not the same player he was. He still has value. He's still playing, pretty well. But in terms of actually getting to the quarterback, I think he's behind Ogbo. I think obviously he's behind Myles Garrett.
Right.
And I just don't think he's the guy getting to the quarterback
Okay.
right now.
He's flashed in the run defense for sure.
I don't agree. I don't agree that he's gotten older. I don't agree that he has taken a step
Well,
back.
that's a fact. He's gotten older.
Well, I mean,
Everybody gets older.
You find somebody that gets younger, that's breaking news.
I didn't say he's playing poorly.
No,
I just said
I
he's not as good as he was.
No,
He's still good.
I still think he's good. He just don't. Sometimes Jim Schwartz talked about it. Sometimes you don't have the production that you're going to have because production sometimes is based on opportunity. Sometimes you can beat a guy in 2 seconds and he flushes the guy right to Myles Garrett. Or there's times where he's beating this guy, quarterback just does a good job of getting rid of the ball. Sacks
or 3 guys get home.
Yeah, or sacks are a function of right place, right time, just like interceptions.
Agreed, and he hasn't been the right place in the right time very often since the middle of last year.
No, that's true.
And I also think because they're starting Gardner Minshew, and because he threw 3 picks last year, and they know how good the Browns last week, and they know how good the Browns defense is, I think the Colts' only hope is running the ball. Zach Moss quietly has been phenomenal
awesome. No,
this
he's been
year.
very good.
And Jonathan Taylor's back. They got 2 good backs.
Right.
So I think they're really going to run the ball a lot. So I don't think there's going to be that many opportunities for sacks.
I think
because the Browns' offense is also not so good enough right now that they're going to blow. I don't think they're going to blow the Colts out.
There's going to be a game where either him or Myles Garrett, they get hot, or what I call just basically being where they're supposed to, and they'll rack off and run off 2-3 sacks in the game. Yeah. It just happens like that when you got good players on defense.
And to Bull's last point, the Gardner Minshew and the running game with Moss and Taylor, and possibly Anthony Walker not being in there, they are going to run the ball. They are going to slow the game down. So again, I love how Za'Darius Smith's been playing. That combination of him and Myles Garrett's exceptional. So that's a homer call by me to say yes on the sack. But to Bull's factual points at the end, they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to play action and do the quick passing game. And they're going to they probably will limit the options or limit the opportunities for us.
I just think we do.
Yeah.
By the way, how about this? Let me just give you the stat real quick. So, Za'Darius Smith on November 13th of last year got a sack that gave him 9.5 on the season.
Yep.
The last 7 games of last year, he had a half a sack.
So that's 12 games.
So in the last 12 games, he has a half a sack.
He's due. He's due.
It wouldn't stun me, certainly, but
It's a guess. Okay.
Za'Darius does rank in the top 10 in pass rush win rate, so he has been effective as a pass rusher,
yes,
even though the stats don't necessarily back it up.
Yeah, now he's helped obviously by Myles Garrett, but that's a fact.
So Bernie, before we get to the next question, I just want to let you know we have a 3-4 split, so you can make this a dead even 50% split here, depending on your answer. The question is, will any Colts running back average at least 3.6? Not any. Excuse me. Will the Colts running backs average 3.6 yards per carry against this vaunted Browns defense on Sunday? 3.6 is the number.
Yeah, I actually think they will, and I still because they can't throw.
Yeah. What if the Browns? What if they allowed
3.4? So slightly above, and for the season, the Colts are averaging 4.2. So I tried to
to
find
running
that
back
happy medium.
specifically, Mike.
So just the running backs.
This is running backs. No quarterback sneaks, no receivers.
Right.
And I'm glad Bernie said yes, because that does make it a perfect
4-4 split.
4-4 split. On the yes side of the fence with Bernie is me, is Bull and Jay, and that's the smart side of the fence. On the wrong side of the fence is Earl, Jason,
Bernie's
G,
on
and
that
Ty.
side too, so that's the brilliant side of the fence.
That's right.
Am I next to that McNugget of yours?
Yeah.
McNugget.
Joe Thomas called me McNuggets on the third show we ever did. So it just
that's how
stuck,
we got
and
the
now
nickname.
McNuggets.
Now the teams the Browns have faced so far this year, outside of Tennessee, don't have good running backs. Joe Mixon's decent, but the Bengals are not a running team.
Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
But McCaffrey got hurt.
He was hurt.
When did he get hurt? When McCaffrey? What quarter
He
was
played
that?
in the third quarter.
He
but
took a
very
snap in
minimal,
the third quarter.
Very minimal.
What was he averaging? What did he average for the game?
Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
So I don't think it's going to be
3.6.
way above that, but the Colts are a good running team. I think they'll be just above
I'm not
that.
conceding nothing to the Colts. They're not going just because they can't throw the football. Don't mean they're going to run the ball for 100,000 yards. Listen,
Well, nobody said they're going to have a huge game.
It means they're going to try to
they're
run
going
the
to
ball.
try to run.
By
this
the way,
ball.
G, if they average 3.8 yards a carry, that's not a good game.
No, that's not.
McCaffrey averaged
We didn't
4
say
carries.
that. None of us said the Colts are going to light up the Browns in the game.
I mean,
we just said it was going to be over 3.6.
I like the Colts. What they got? What's the name? Taylor back. Moss has been doing, but Moss is no Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey. The Cleveland Browns are coming off a game where I think this only stokes the fires. They're going to be even more emboldened. They're going to be like, listen, we'll put 35 dudes up here, and you're not going to run the
I mean,
ball
they
at all.
should. If I'm the Browns, I'm putting 8 in the box.
8 box all day long.
I'm not worried about Gardner
McCaffrey
Minshew.
averaged 4 yards a carry. I know Derrick Henry was nowhere near that.
No, Derrick
Henry was. They put a lid on Derrick
Yeah.
Henry.
And if
that's hard to do.
And if they can get some early points when they stop them and they get the Colts down, then the running game goes right out the
Then
window.
start throwing
Yeah,
the
see,
football.
That's true.
This is where, like, Jim Schwartz defense with that wide 9, okay, when you're crushing and collapsing the pocket and you're one-dimensional, like he made Tennessee, and that he could do that. He could do that again to Gardner Minshew and the running game
Very good.
this week.
What's next?
We have our last one here, guys, and then we're going to move on and talk a little historical offenses and defenses, which I can't wait to do with Bernie in the house here. But this was not a perfect 4-3 split. It was a 5-2 split, so Bernie can make this pretty even. Will the Browns win the turnover battle against the Colts for the first time this season? Miraculously, the Browns 3-2 on the year, despite being 0-5 in the turnover battle. Bernie, is this the game the Browns come out on top in the turnover game?
This is great to be able to say this. I think we could say no, and it doesn't matter.
It defies logic, but
Right.
it does so
And
far.
I'm not saying it to be funny, and I absolutely don't want it to happen. If we win the turnover battle, I can't see any way that they win the game anyways.
Yeah, right.
And I still see how we've been losing the turnover battle. And
crazy.
Our defense is so spectacular that they're kind of an eraser for mistakes.
That's exactly right. And they're 4-1
and-
if they don't turn it over against Pittsburgh in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
And they still would have lost that turnover battle because they
would have.
were
You're right.
-2 in that
You're
game.
right.
And from a QB perspective, I felt like this in the 80s. I did not want to have turnovers, but I didn't lose my brain over them because I knew at times that the defense was going to bail me out. I really believe they're going to bail me out.
That's a nice safety net. And
And
they're
that's
playing with
it.
that same safety net now.
you got to go for it sometimes. Like I'm not afraid of throwing picks. You got to go for it. Like sometimes that ball's got to go, and it don't always work out. But in duress and chaos, it isn't easy to throw that ball 18 yards, 56 feet down there around the Myles Garrett's arms, over the Anthony Walker's
Right.
hands to drop it in before Ronnie Lott decapitates Reggie Langhorst.
Right, no,
That's why we're all in concussion protocol.
hospital balls.
Hey, y'all would have been walking in protocol. Like, y'all would have never been out of protocol back then.
I know it's
God.
hilarious is that my guy Ronnie Lott's ahead of concussion treatment now. He caused half of mine.
Bernie tells a funny story about back then. Here was concussion protocol. They would say, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And Bernie said, "It was always 2." So even if I saw 4, I said 2, and I got to go back into the game.
Hey, and in training camp was so long back in July and August. We had meetings about that. During the season, if you're on Sunday and you're going to come out, the doctor and trainer come out, you're going to get the concussion test. And the concussion test is the fingers. And it's not going to be 1, because that's too easy. Let me show off the Super Bowl ring. It's not going to be 3, because you may miss that. It always was 2. And you had a meeting about that.
That's
And-
insane.
And I was actually joking around with, God, it's amazing. I cognitively could remember this. I didn't say it on this show, but I said it to Austin Love this morning. Was one of my first times getting tested on it. And again, don't do this, young kids out there and young parents. But back then, to mitigate a concussion, you would have smelling salts. So I was getting so many of them that I'd have a pocket with a little smelling salt. And again, don't do this either, but back in the day, you were rough at the bottom of the pile. So there's 10 or 15 seconds of stuff going on there that you had time to smell the smelling salts and collect your thoughts, because you knew within 10 or 15 seconds the doctor was going to be out there, and you had to do the concussion test. So I had that Jets.
Man.
After that Jets double overtime,
Man.
Gastineau hit me, and I'm doing that, and I'm coming out, and it's I'd thrown the picks. We're down 10 points. People are steaming out of the dog pound. I see Bill Tessendorf, the great trainer, the great John Bergfeld from the Cleveland Clinic, one of the only team docs I had who didn't push pain pills on me. So thank you, brother. You were great. But he comes up to me and he goes, and I was impatient to get back into the huddle, and I was trying to get past the doc because I didn't want him to know I was concussed. And he goes, "Wait, you got to do the evaluation." He goes, "How many fingers?" I go, 2. He goes, you're lying. You're lying. I didn't even do it yet. I go, bro, I'm Nostradamus. I saw the future. I can't be concussed. You know?
That's so good.
And that's spiritual.
We laugh about it now, but there are players that are in bad shape.
No, in bad shape.
Because of that.
And I look at the conflict there of that changed my life. Okay, cognitively and physically, I have issues for multiple decades, and it was dark at times between retiring in '97 and then figuring out what to do in 2017. Okay, that was a dark 30 years, 3+ decades and stuff. But I would have lost that game if I left. So I would have not won that game. At the beginning of my career, then I would have lost the first playoff game I played in 1985 against the Dolphins, and then I would have lost that game. That affects my whole psyche, a lot of my confidence and belief in myself.
That Jets game was the signature win of that era.
What happened then, that was a springboard for me personally and my confidence in the 87, 88. The 89 team wasn't that good, but we had such belief and confidence from the miracles that we pulled off on 86 and 87 that it was a springboard. So, like, I'm really conflicted as a health and wellness guy who doesn't want. I'm so happy when my son stopped playing. I didn't want to see him play. I don't want to see him have a shitty, excuse me, not supposed to swear, terrible 30s, 40s, and 50s. That was lost decades.
Not worth it.
With that. But the confidence and belief and respect I have for myself was because I won that game and I came back. And I'm so thankful to God that I got to play in that game and finish and win it, because I don't want to live here as a 60-year-old guy feeling bad that I threw 2 picks to lose the game. I'd rather be concussed and have no back teeth because Gaston knocked out my back teeth, and it's partly why I'm a juicer and I don't eat steak.
Mikey.
Yeah, so that was quite the story, Bernie. And I think that's the longest, and nothing wrong with it, but that was definitely the longest between asking a fence rider question and getting to the answers we've ever done on UCSS. And I would not want anyone to take us on that tangent other than you, Mr. Kosar. So was the answer yes or no? I missed it. Do you think the Browns win the turnover battle or lose the turnover battle on Sunday?
He said it doesn't matter. But
I said no.
He said no. Perfect.
They lose the turnover battle.
They lose the turnover battle. He's joining forces with Earl and Tyvis, the angry mafia on the bottom. While the rest of us are a little more
Earl's
confident
angry.
they will.
I don't think Tyvis is angry. Tyvis just looks exasperated.
I'm going on this every time I answer. They're due.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
They're due. It's almost unthinkable that they're 0-5 in the turnover battle, but 3-2 in the win-loss column.
Yeah.
That defies logic.
Next, Mike.
That was the last one. We got to get to our next topic, which I'm very excited to do so. But before we do that, I need to remind the good people out there that if you're looking to get in on any gambling action this NFL season or the NBA season or for the Major League Baseball playoffs, you better do it with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 of bonus bets by placing a simple $5 bet. Win or lose, that's $200 in bonus bets. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's literally no better time than this exact moment to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. Earlier in the show, we showed you a $5 ticket used on FanDuel that turned into $6,200. You could be next. And if you have a ticket like that, send it in to us. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS. The link is on the screen. FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL and an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
By the way, Mike, one of our diehard fans, a guy by the name of Aaron Lee, who tweets at me all the time, he asked me to show Bernie this picture. Bernie, this is you, and I'll show the fans the picture too, sitting next to a little kid. Everybody can see this picture of Bernie at training camp next to a little kid here. That little kid is this guy Aaron, who's a huge fan of the show, and he said he was part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he met you, and he met the entire team. Here's some other. There's a picture. And he said it was the time of his life. He'll never forget it.
Aaron,
He's a huge fan of the
Aaron, you got to come in, man. I want to see. I want to get another picture.
Yeah, you got
to like the Polk story when we recreated.
My Polk, yeah.
30 years later with the story.
Before and after.
Yeah.
So again, I'm proud to say, and I want to not get too emotional. I used to do a ton. I still do a ton with Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
So to be that age and me be that quarterback, and for Aaron still to be with us, Aaron, definitely come in because I've met so many Make-A-Wish kids over the years, and most of us aren't with us anymore. So for you to be here, brother,
Aaron, we're glad you're doing well.
Yeah, so I'm not saying this just to be on air and gratuitous. Come on in. Absolutely.
Mikey,
And
what do you got for
quickly,
us?
here's a picture that I took 5 years ago of Bernie with a woman who I think was 100. You remember that? We were at Brown's practice, and this woman was there, and she said she wanted to get her picture taken with Bernie. That was 2018.
Yeah, and that
5
was
years ago.
actually 1 year after I started on this health journey.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing to see your transformation, too, by the way, because I knew you in that dark
Yeah,
period.
when we first
And,
met,
yeah,
like 10 plus years ago, some of those.
was crazy.
If you and me have some of those pictures, me, you,
I
and
have
Tracy.
them. Yeah,
you
I
know?
have them. And
yeah.
your transformation has been nothing short of remarkable.
So, Jay, question for you guys.
Okay.
And I'm putting it out very simply. The Browns, through 5 games, have been a historically good defense. 1,002 yards allowed through 5 games. That is it. That's the fewest in 50 years in the NFL. So would you guys rather have an all-time great offense or an all-time great defense?
I want Bernie to start because I can't wait to hear his answer.
Yeah, well,
I think I know where he's going.
Hey, I'm so biased here. I ain't even trying to be on the fence. Of course, it's offense in that. For me, as a guy who didn't have the physical skills to play defense in that, So from the offensive perspective with it, but that being said, for us to really get to where we want to get, and the teams that really are consistently the Super Bowl teams, and playing in Cleveland, it's miserable to be consistent offensively. So this dominant defense, this in 5+ decades, the NFL hasn't seen a defense start like this. This historic type defense, if it continues, and it really can continue, because if you dominate the defensive line, offensive line like they're dominating now, there's no reason this can't continue and take this to be special places. So in the interest of short-term thinking, I like this defense taking
Wow.
this.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
obviously,
a surprise to me.
the Browns are closer to one than the other.
Way closer.
But if we're in La La Land and we're starting from scratch, I'd much rather have a. Of course, I'm an offensive guy.
Yeah, I expected you to go
my
there.
many games played in high-level 8th grade parks. Yes, I would much rather have the offense. And more recently, I think for much of the NFL's history, it was the great defenses that often won. But more recently, we've seen a lot of teams win great offense and solid defense. And I think that's how most of the teams do it now. We'll see. Things seem to be maybe changing back the other way this year. Maybe. It's still too early in the season to know for sure. But I think it would be interesting if we had, say, for example, the Browns kept this up defensively and the Dolphins kept it up offensively and they played each other in the playoffs.
love to see
that would
it.
be pretty
That's
interesting.
You'd love to see that.
I
Yeah.
love Mike McDaniels.
Oh,
Yeah. What do you
Such a
got,
smart
G-Boy?
Yeah.
Well, I used to be I flip-flop on this a little bit. I used to be an offensive guy. I played defense, but I always felt like offense was the way you really made your money in the league. It was the way that you could get to the Super Bowl. But as I started looking at, in the past and taking things, and just looking at the information, I look at the great offenses that in my time or anybody's time that were great that never won. The Bills' offense was dominant. The Bills could throw the ball. They could run the ball. They got wide receivers that are Reed and Kelly and Thurman Thomas. They never won. The Warren Moon teams of the 90s, they never won.
yeah, but that was a different era, though, G. Recently, it's been great offensive teams that have won.
I'm going to fast forward and keep going. When you talk about a lot of it is there's a lot of offensive teams that had really good. If you look at it, you break it down as far as teams go. Who's really won? Manning, Brady, and Mahomes. You take them three.
Throw in the history. Now throw in Montana. Pittsburgh and their dominance. They had a great defense, and when you go back and look at their offensive numbers, they're not historic at all.
No.
Yeah, but nobody put up historic numbers
Nobody
in
did.
the 70s.
Dallas,
offensively.
when they had their long runs, they did it with offense. In their second run,
They had
because they had
both.
an early run.
I think it's easier if I got a team right and I got a dominant defense right. Traditionally, it takes less money to stock a defense than an offense.
No, I completely disagree. On offense, if you have a great quarterback, your offense is usually going to be great.
Yeah, but
On
he's your biggest
first
salary,
of all,
though.
we haven't had a historic defense in forever.
No.
The only thing close to that was Seattle when they won. That's a while now.
I thought the Denver Broncos carried Peyton Manning at the end of his career. The no-fly zone.
They did that last year.
I think what's
in the
happening
playoffs.
here is eras are overlapping. I think that in the NFL, if you chart it, it goes like this. And to Bull's point, and I first noticed this last year, particularly at the beginning of the season, when offensive numbers were just down league-wide. They still finished down for the year, not as down as they were to start the year, but they still were down. I think what happens is it's a copycat league. Teams look around and say, who is having success and why? Well, we're in the Mahomes era now. That's what it is. That came on the heels of the Brady era. So we really had two dominant quarterbacks, all-time great quarterbacks, on the heels of one another. I think that led us to where we are now. General managers started looking at, okay, if we want to win, who do we have to stop? Brady, Mahomes. Okay, let's spend our draft capital on defensive players. So it feels like we're now starting to swing from offense dominance back to defense dominance, and that's great for us because if you think about the draft picks that this regime has had, we've hit on defensive players. The offensive players, not so much.
And Jay, even in college, you're starting to see numbers be
are.
down in college.
It used to be
70 points.
We got to see it for a whole season.
Well, we got to see it for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, because in the end, last year was all about the offense in the Super Bowl.
The outliers were the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson, the Ravens with Trent Dilfer. Go back to the 80s, the Bears with Jim McMahon. I think. And it used to be the old cliche, defense wins championships. I think that's been muddied up the last 15 years by the quarterback play and the offenses. But I do think we are coming back into the era of the defense.
To your points, it has been offensively oriented the last decade. Plus, because a lot of it has to do with the rules of the league.
That's right.
And how they call the games.
Sure.
Okay, so as an offensive guy, I would love to have played 5 years ago where nobody's allowed to touch anybody.
Yeah.
Even 2 years ago, I touch your head, penalty, okay?
Yeah.
That's fine. I love that as a quarterback. I want those 15 yards.
You would have played
okay?
another 5 seasons minimum.
And we got scoring at all-time highs, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Offensively, you had to do it. Jim Schwartz and the Myles Garrett type defensive lines would be so mitigated. They'd be so apprehensive because they're not allowed to touch anybody. Be careful. They got to think. One of the great things.
Even with these rules, they're off to an all-time great 5-game start.
Here's what's sweet in the NFL this year. Not just us. Scoring is at one of the all-time lows this season in the last 2 years. And it's, I believe, 100% because the league is letting them play some. There's some hits going on the quarterback that don't get called.
So you think that pendulum is swinging back
Oh,
the
God,
other way?
yes. And then here's a hidden thing that happens in the NFL in December and playoff time. Even in a few years ago, when it was you weren't allowed to touch anybody and everything was a penalty, a defensive holding, a pass interference, a hitting the quarterback, they let you have more contact.
In December and
In
January.
December and January. So
but
Jim Schwartz now being here with that wide 9.
Can get even more aggressive.
He's going to get more aggressive.
Wow,
and we
Bernie.
play press coverage.
Here's what I would say to that, though. Last year in the end, the Super Bowl was the two best offensive teams in Philadelphia and Kansas City.
Yeah.
And they play, and the defense, it was, what was the final score? 35-28? I mean, it was a high-scoring game. I think part of the reason defense has, Jay said last year, the defense was up early, and then as the year went on, the offense picked up. It was down,
but never
it
up
picked
to
up.
where it had been.
Here's what I think is happening the last couple of years, and it happened again big time this year. And that's why I have to see the numbers change for the whole year before I believe it. Offensive players, quarterbacks and skill position guys across the board now are barely playing in the preseason, if at all.
Yeah.
And I think offenses are coming out much rustier early in the season
for sure.
the last couple of years. And I think that's a factor. Now, I do think the tide may be turning a little bit, but I don't think it's turning quite as fast as we think because of that. I need to see it for a full year and then beyond.
There's one other reason that I would pick defense because you start to think about the teams where they just won championships just with defense and the offenses were mid. And I mentioned the Bears, the Ravens, and the Buccaneers. the one time we had the all-time greatest offense we had ever seen, they rewrote the record book. Randy Moss came into New England, and it was like
Michael
popcorn.
Strahan played defense.
And what happened in the Super Bowl? The great defense, which wasn't an all-time historical great defense, by the way.
No.
It was a good defense by all accounts, but it wasn't up there with the Bears, the Ravens, the Buccaneers, and some of those. They stopped the unstoppable train and won the Super Bowl with great defense.
They got a lucky play on the helmet catch.
Well, listen,
if they don't have that, they lose the game. I mean, that's
if
well, we do ifs all the time.
If your grandmother had wheels, she'd be a
Jake,
bike.
you bring up ifs all the time.
Yes. However, when I do, you always
dismiss my ifs.
and you always dismiss my ifs. So I'm
fair.
I'm really the person that never said that.
The point is, that was still a great team.
It
wasn't like they got smoked in that Super Bowl.
However, the history books, when we're all gone 100 years from now, they'll look up that page and they'll say, all-time greatest offense we'd ever seen did take the L in the Super Bowl to a really good defense. That's why
Is that a better offense than the Kurt Warner Rams offense?
It was for me, and statistically, it was no doubt.
I mean, he did catch 25 touchdowns.
They rewrote the record book in every category.
25?
And I remember when I watched it, I said, I've never seen anything like this.
They're just throwing the ball
Even the
backwards.
greatest show on turf, which was phenomenal. How many Super Bowls did they win?
One.
And now, if we're going to use ifs, on the last play of the game, Tennessee got tackled where?
Okay,
You're
fine.
right.
Yeah.
On the 1 yard line.
That was a great play.
There is not a single team of the great defenses that has won more than one Super Bowl. The 85 Bears, the greatest defense ever.
You're right.
Won one.
You're absolutely
That Ravens
right.
team won one. It was a different team years later that won.
Ray
That
was a part
Buccaneers
of both
team,
of those, though.
He was, but
Yeah.
the rest of the defense
But
had changed.
you're right.
I had to play the 85 Bears defense in the home opener in
Oh, my
1986 in Chicago with those guys.
How did they not win more than
Buddy,
one?
what happened was the team got fractured.
Yeah.
If you watch that 30 for 30
Yeah,
that they did on that
But Walter
team,
didn't get a
and Buddy
touchdown in the Super Bowl.
they gave it to the fridge.
Yeah.
And they scored 55 points or whatever that number was. And at the end of the game, when they could have given the great Walter Payton, who did not score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, they gave the ball to the refrigerator, who was a massive story. But
I think it was the greatest team ever.
And remember,
that
when they
season.
when they won that Super Bowl, they didn't carry Mike Ditka off the field. They carried Buddy Ryan off the field. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's rough.
I'm going back.
I'm so optimistic. I thought we should have beat the Dolphins and that we'd have played in the AFC Championship game in 1985 against the New England Patriots. We had already in the first game I ever played, we had beaten them at home. And I wanted to be that quarterback.
Was Tony Eason the quarterback?
Tony Eason.
Yeah.
Good
They got
memory.
destroyed by the Bears. Oh my! The Bears killed everybody in the playoffs that year, right? They won.
Yes.
They won by I think
The only game they lost was to the Dolphins, who it was on a Monday night, fairly late in the season.
Yeah.
And they were essentially protecting the franchise's legacy as the only team to go undefeated throughout the whole season and then win the Super Bowl.
But that was the great for the historians. That was yes, there was a motivation from a personal side for that, but just from a football side of it, and I love the Buddy Ryan 46 Bear defense.
Yeah.
That versions of that. People say the game's changed. They're still doing defenses are still doing versions of that today. But that 8-man front, guy in the middle of the guy at the line of scrimmage, the strong safety pressing the tight end. Against the great Dan Marino, they threw quick slants all day.
Yeah, they cracked the code.
Yes, they cracked the code to kind of give you
the.
And Coach Shula did an amazing job with that.
People are starting to do breakdowns on why, maybe not necessarily why, but what's going on with defenses this year, especially this year.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's the red zone. Teams are still moving the ball between the 20s a lot.
Sure, Jason says that all the time.
But the red zone.
They're clamping down.
We're allowed to grab you. I mean, 3-4 years ago, this is a defensive holding.
Yeah.
I can get away with this now. Like Hanford Dixon and Mighty Minnie, this is how they played. They held the whole time.
Quiet as kept was what was happening. See, teams been run up and down the field, Bull. How many games do you watch where offense is playing well and they get stopped on first and second down, but then here comes the flag? Like,
Right.
it ain't like they just running open. You know how many sustained drives you can get on pass interference, illegal hands to the face,
Right.
defensive holding.
The league wants offense. It's good for business.
It is good for business.
So if you eliminate those and you got to consistently convert on third down, and guess what? The holding is off inside the red zone because I can hold you within 5 yards.
Right.
So now you got to come up with a creative way to score.
We got a Didi, Mike?
Do we need a read before a Didi?
Yeah, I might as well get the
logging in
read,
now.
and we have a Didi. She's logging in right now. She was just speaking to Elijah Moore, so we're gonna have some
I can't wait to
literally
hear what she has
fresh
to say.
off the phone insight from Aditi, who's calling the game this weekend. Or at least
Elijah
she's on the
Moore,
sidelines
St.
for the
Thomas
game.
Aquinas.
Yep.
Fort Lauderdale.
Before we do that, I need to remind the good people out there that if they ever find themselves in a pinch and need emergency medical care, Jace Medical is where you got to go. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind so you're not just hoping to have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the proper medication in hand. It's simple. They handle everything from online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That is promo code LOCKEDON at JASEmedical.com. As soon as Aditi's officially ready, I will bring her in. But until then,
Yeah, she's part of the broadcast team for the Colts Browns on Sunday. Game you'll see locally here on CBS.
By the way, this is a first.
What do you got?
I am going to accept a fantasy football trade in my Dynasty League on the air. I've just been offered a deal. I'm sorry, Browns fans. I'm trading David Njoku.
Who you
I'm
get?
shipping his ass out of town because I'm getting Evan Ingram. He's better.
Straight up? Who made that trade?
No, I'm trading Nico Collins as part of the
Oh,
deal.
well,
Who's
okay,
a good
well.
young wide receiver,
Yeah.
but I got a lot of wide
that's a fair
receivers.
trade. If
So-
you were doing Evan for David straight up, you fleeced somebody.
Yeah, no. Evan Ingram and Michael Carter for David Njoku and Nico Collins. I'm going to accept that right now. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Evan, yes. I got Evan Ingram. Finally.
I've got him on my family league. I don't
In
know
this
if we have him
in this
on
crazy
UCSF.
Dynasty League, tight ends get 2 points per reception. So Ingram's very valuable.
Wow. So I
Wow,
bet
why
the
is
tight ends
that?
are off the board early.
Wow, you know, it's funny, talking about the NFL and
Yeah.
offensive. 7 years ago to 8 years ago, if you said, I want to have 3 tight ends on your roster and a fullback, you were looked at as the Antichrist within a guy putting a team
Yeah.
together. And now the
It's the
6'6",
ebbs and flows.
the 6'6" tight end, I don't know how you can
It's a
live
zigzag
without
league,
him.
Bernie.
I
It's-
can't
yeah.
play without
What's
a
this
tight
guy
end.
on the
league.
How about-
When they zig, you got to zag.
How about this
Yeah.
guy on the Steelers? I can't think of his name. Who's this tight end's like? He's like looks like an offensive lineman. He's even bigger. He's like, what's it? Look,
Darnell Washington.
Washington.
Yeah,
And
what is
no
he,
one
like
can tell us
6'8"?
more about him. He's 6'7", 270, and no one knows more about Darnell Washington on this panel.
Oh yeah,
Aditi,
Aditi,
who's
yeah.
ready to join us. What's up, Aditi?
Hey,
270.
how are you?
He's playing tight end. Aditi.
That's
That's
insane.
kind of crazy. This guy. I don't know how good he
that's
is,
a
but
bit above my playing weight, just a little.
Just a little bit. Bernie, put your earpiece in so you can hear Didi.
Yeah, where am I?
there you go.
Oh,
There it
here
is.
we go, yeah.
Aditi, what did Elijah Moore have to say? Anything interesting? Is he going to catch any passes this week or what? What's he doing?
Excuse me, he is actually, you know what? He's catching a lot of passes. He has almost as many receptions as Amari. He just hasn't.
Yeah, they're about
broken
3
one
yards
yet.
per
He did
reception.
have that. Yeah, well, you know what? Right now they're asking him to eat up some grass, but that doesn't mean that a big play isn't coming. And so let's watch on Sunday because we had the conversation. And should a big play come, you know, the producer will come down to me and I'll say,
That's
hey,
right.
Elijah Moore and I just talked about this on Thursday.
How is he handling things through 5 games? Because he came in, not as a savior, but he came in as a guy who everybody expected big things from him.
Tons of hype.
And there was a lot of hype around him. And yeah, he is gobbling up some catches, but it's safe to say he has not lived up to the expectations that the fans have had for him. How is he handling all that? What's his mindset?
So let's start with this. Remember that the expectations that a player himself has and that a coach and a team
they're
has, and an understanding of what your role is and what your job is perhaps a little bit different than what a fan expects or thinks a person's job is. So let me say, and obviously Elijah Moore wants to break some big ones. Obviously he wants more yardage and not just eating up some grass to get to that first down marker. That's a given. But I'll say this. I talked with this young man last year before the Jets came in to face the Browns. We spent, I don't know, a good 20, 25 minutes together. I obviously was with him during training camp, and I talked to him again now. He is genuinely enjoying where he is, loving this offense,
Great.
seeing the potential of it. I mean, I asked him what's different, and he said everything. He loves how Kevin Stefanski has this open line of communication with him about the different ways that he can be used. And it's not just lining him in the slot and there you go. I think I looked up the stat the other day. Through his first 3 years with the Jets, he had 10 carries. This year so far, he's got 8, and he's like, I love it. I love it. Use me every which way that you possibly
But he
can.
hasn't done anything with them.
They're not working, though.
But again, this is what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
He has patience. When I spoke to him week 2 last year, you could see that he had already lost patience with what the Jets were doing offensively. The word that he used with me today is, I just need to keep being patient. I know it's coming. He is being involved. He is being used. Just because it hasn't broken yet doesn't mean that it's never going to break. Let's be honest. We're still a little bit early in all of this. Let's also be honest. It took 3 games until Deshaun Watson was finally playing the way you'd want a star quarterback to play. And then all of a sudden you're playing a rookie quarterback who had 2 hours notice that he was playing, and then all of a sudden you're starting another guy, PJ Walker. Life hasn't exactly been set up for Elijah Moore to go out there and be wide receiver 1 in the National Football League at the moment. That doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
I get it. We need to be more patient.
I hear you. I don't think he's ever going to be wide receiver
again,
1.
I want to say this.
Yeah.
I do feel that, and you can all say this, you all know like when a guy is going through the motions, you know when a guy is fake, you know when a guy is saying what he needs to say, and you know when someone's really truly bought in and believes in what's happening. And so I'm here to tell you, I talked to Elijah Moore a year ago when he was not a member of this organization. I've been around him as he's learned, acclimated, gotten into this organization, and I just talked to him half an hour ago.
Yeah.
He's in a different place. And if he tells me that he feels optimistic and he feels there's a reason to be patient and he feels that those big splashy plays are coming, I'm buying. I
All right,
am.
Aditi,
Sorry.
Let's move on to the most important.
You don't like when I disagree. It would be better if I said, yes, you're right, he's a bust.
You couldn't. I thought you knew me better than that. I love to argue, so I love when people disagree. That's a total misconception that I want people to agree with me. It would be boring if people agree with me because I enjoy arguing. So I know.
So
I'm fine with that. But we got to get to the biggest story because obviously there's been big injury news surrounding the Browns. This Harrison Bryant injury, I don't know how the Browns will. No. Deshaun Watson, we had no idea what was going on, right? There was terrible mixed messaging from the Browns. It seems like this week they've gotten on the same page, and supposedly he's practicing today for the first time in a while. What's the latest that you can tell us on Deshaun Watson and whether or not you think he might play this week?
I genuinely believe, from what I'm being told, that it is 50-50. That he is doing everything to play, that he wants to play, that there's a possibility, but let's see what happens today. Let's see, does he indeed get out on that practice field? Does he feel that he can drive the ball? Does he come out of practice feeling good? I think that that's sort of a greater indicator. And I don't see the drama and the scandal that sort of was alleged by certain people on the internet a week ago, I guess. I think that it really is something as simple as, let's see if he can do it, and today could be a really good, positive, optimistic sign. And if not, how about PJ Walker handling business? If it has to be another week, that's a young man that certainly, had confidence and has even more confidence this week. Wouldn't you? If you had just beaten the San Francisco 49ers, wouldn't you have some extra confidence?
I don't know if I would call it him beating them, but he was the quarterback.
Yeah, he was under center. I don't know how I feel about them.
They missed a
He
kick.
didn't give away the
makeable.
game. How about we do that? He didn't give away the game.
That's,
Okay,
you know
okay,
what?
I
That's
did.
fair.
He
He
did.
damn near tried it on that last pass into the end zone. But to your
In the
point,
end,
he
he
did
didn't.
not give
Okay.
away the game.
That's right.
So there's that.
Yeah, I think, and if you could beat San Francisco with him, you should be able to beat Indy with him, I would think.
You would hope. Indy,
Yeah.
that is playing, obviously, with its
never
own
know.
backup quarterback, a veteran backup quarterback, but
Yeah.
a backup quarterback who did not look particularly good against the Jaguars defense. And, this is a conversation that my crew and I were having about the Browns yesterday. Pro Football Talk had done a comparison of how much further the Browns defense ranks from the second place team in various categories, and how the Browns are that much better than the second place team is from the 32nd place team.
Yeah.
And one of the members of my crew made the point of saying, okay, but let's look at who the Browns have played. They played a Steelers team with a horrific offense. They played, a 49ers team without certain star players, and et cetera.
That's a bogus argument.
Well, and that's what I said. I said, you know what? But I said that you play who you're scheduled to play. You line up and you play, and it's still doing it. But to that argument, you can't give that argument if there's not consistency. If you keep stacking performances like that, people are going to stop looking for reasons to kind of cut that down.
That's fair.
Well, the one outlier, though, Aditi, was the Baltimore game. And I know that they gave the Ravens 2 short fields. But
right.
even taking that out of the mix, the Ravens had success moving the football against the Browns. I've kind of come to the conclusion that what's different from the Ravens and all the others is that they have a quarterback that they really have to be afraid of hurting them with his legs. Is that a likely conclusion as to why Baltimore has had the most success against this Browns defense, because they have a running quarterback?
Jay, I feel that that's a piece of it, of course, and it's not that Lamar is only merely a running quarterback.
But he can
run. It's a single, unique, dynamic talent.
Sure.
But I also think that division games, you just sort of throw them out the window. It's like Steelers-Browns. You don't know what's going to happen. It's Steelers-Ravens. It's Browns-Ravens. These are teams, they know each other as well as anybody could possibly know each other. And so that adds just a completely different dynamic to the whole thing. I don't know that it's even really about a matchup or a scheme or an individual player. It's just... think about it. Over the last decade, how many crazy, bizarre things have we seen happen in AFC North games? Mm-hmm. I can think of a million examples of one team headed to like a 4-win season, another one headed to the playoffs, and the 4-win team winning with a backup quarterback. It happens.
Aditi, who were you more impressed with? The Dolphins offense or the Browns defense?
The Browns defense.
Ooh, wow.
Okay. So you ready to go on national TV this game, when you're doing the game, to say the Browns are the number 1 defense in the league, bar none?
Well, I don't give opinions from the sideline. I only give facts. And if there's some reason to say that, yes, you clearly are.
Well, the numbers say that.
I'm so old school. I know that you were all talking about this, but to me, and I'm sorry, Bernie, but defense still wins championships to me.
No.
If you can shut somebody down, yes, it does. If you can shut down a great offense, then there you go. And I think right now that, yes, the Dolphins offense is doing stupefying things. I have their game next week. I have the Pats at Dolphins week 7, so I'll get to see them up close. I saw them up close last year twice. But I just think that the Browns defense, the way that they're playing, the speed with which they're playing, the motor and the energy. It's funny, I was a couple minutes late because I was just talking to Colts veteran center Ryan Kelly, and we were talking about what jumps out about that Browns defensive front, and he said it's their motor on first down and second down. Ooh. You see a lot of teams get very amped up on third down when they can go rush the passer, but these guys play the same way even if it's first down, and that's really, really fun to see, really fun to watch.
I would love to see a matchup between the Dolphins and the Browns in the playoffs, because it is a fascinating example of, the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and see how that thing shakes out.
In the Super Bowl last year, the offense beat the defense.
Well, it's not like Kansas City had a bad defense.
Yes.
Yeah, but the Eagles had the best defense in the league last year by far.
Okay, but you're not talking about like a romp, Adam.
Though.
It's not
if
like they just
changes.
ran all over them or threw all over them.
Yes, they did. The Eagles' offense was just good. The Chiefs ran all over the Eagles' defense. Eagles' defense was terrible in the Super Bowl.
And then, not to make excuses, the whole point was that the best part of the Eagles' defense was mitigated or handcuffed by that horrible field. They couldn't get that pass rush off the way that they wanted to because of the footing of the field.
That's a great point, Aditi. That pass rush and the Jim Schwartz wide 9 does not want to have that wet, slippery, nor frozen field as we trend towards the end of the season, because that's stifling. It's stifling.
Yeah. So I guess that's an interesting point. We'll see how all that plays out.
As it
Browns
pertains
take
to
a
the
lot in their
Browns,
field at least. What was that?
One of the things that we've talked about on the show today is the fact that they are 0-5 in the turnover battles this year. And that's one of the key indicators in a team's success is your plus minus. It's almost mind-boggling that they are 0-5 in the turnover battles, yet they're 3-2 in the win-loss column. They could have, had the Steelers not forced that strip sack fumble, they'd be 4-1, and they still would have lost the turnover battle in that game. I mean, it really is kind of defying logic in what we thought we knew about how important that plus-minus stat is.
And I keep focusing on it. I know that the last few weeks when you put me on the spot about this, I keep saying that a defense that comes up with a splash play in key moments almost feels more important than someone that's just consistently playing well and not getting that game-breaking moment. But I asked JOK about it yesterday, like, how much are you guys talking about the fact that you have no takeaways, that these numbers are sort of surprisingly minuscule for how well the defense is playing? And he just, again, kind of the same line, like, they'll come, keep doing your job and they'll come, and we're not focused on it and it's not something we're thinking about. But it does make me wonder, and that's a player. I do want to ask Jim Schwartz when we meet with him on Saturday, are you doing anything to sort of encourage poking the ball out? Are you doing any additional ball type drills to get the ball? Because that really is a piece of it. And I said this to you guys last week when we were talking about the 49ers game, and I was like, why can't we expect the defense to step up? Why can't we expect the defense to go out and win a game?
You did say that.
And in a lot of ways, yes, in a lot of ways the defense did, but go get a turnover. Go get, go score a touchdown.
And what
if
really
TJ Watt
hurt,
can score a touchdown, if Alex Highsmith can score a touchdown, why can't these great Browns defensive players score a touchdown?
And then, Didi, you've got to take advantage of them and play complementary football. The one turnover they got, they were in field goal range. They go minus 20 yards on the next 3 plays, and they're punting the ball back, completely erasing the takeaway.
Exactly. But we can argue that the Browns maybe just haven't had as much practice.
Aditi, let's wrap
the field after a takeaway.
Let's wrap it up with this. If the Browns are going to make a trade, and the Browns have been an aggressive team, the trade deadline's 12 days away, I think. If they're going to make a trade, without going into specific players, what would be the priority for you? Replacing Jed Wills at left tackle, or just getting maybe some depth at that position? Getting another wide receiver that would be a clearer number 2 guy behind Amari Cooper, or getting a running back who is, legitimate, at least in the mix type of running back, 1A, 1B.
Or a better backup quarterback.
I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't. No, I think that Kareem Hunt finally looked that his pads had warmed up. That was the phrase he used with us, that he needed to warm his pads up. He finally looked pretty good. I think that Jerome Ford, all things considered, is indeed coming along. I think that they are feeling good about the way that they can and will run the ball. I disagree with you on the wide receiver room. I think that they're fine. I still believe in Elijah Moore. I'm not writing him off after 5 games.
That's fine. You're in the minority, but you may turn out to be right.
Maybe. We'll see.
Touchdown in 5 games.
I think that's a product of the quarterback play, but
yes,
contributing.
Agreed. Don't the Browns only have 1 wide receiver touchdown entirely?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, for the
they
whole
only
season.
have 4.
One.
They only have 4 passing touchdowns on the season. That's it. So
right. So again, but I think that a lot of that has to do with quarterback play.
yes, I agree. I think that's fair.
Yeah, but if guys are getting separation and they're open, you're more likely to get a touchdown here.
But a guy like Marquise Brown could certainly help the team, I think.
I feel like that's not an area of desperate need. I think you just need to get better at doing what you do. I don't love the left tackle situation.
So that would
You're right,
be it?
but I don't know.
He is coming off his best game of the year.
Who are you getting right now? Like, you're not getting Trent Williams. Who do you think you're getting?
You can get Trent Brown from New England. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Why wouldn't they trade him? They stink. They're out of it. You could get Grant Bowles from Denver. He's pretty good, and they're out of it. So I think you can get one of those 2 guys.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see, right? I haven't had those conversations. Let me get to Indy this weekend and see if I can dig up any.
the bottom line is the Browns appear to have a Super Bowl caliber defense. If Deshaun Watson can play, I'm not even asking at this point for the rest of this year to play Houston Deshaun Watson. I'm saying play 3/4 of Houston Deshaun Watson.
Tennessee Watson.
The guy, the guy who played in the
Tennessee
Tennessee
Watson.
game, as we talked about. If he plays at that level with this defense, they're a Super Bowl contender. There's no doubt.
So then you're fine. You don't need an additional piece. I think right now the focus
Well,
is
no,
get
but it's not
Deshaun
about
Watson
being
healthy.
fine. It's about being as good as you can be. I don't want to see.
Sure, but again,
I got to
I
keep
think
Watson healthy.
You're not getting this. Well, that's all very fair, but you're
Yeah.
not getting the greatest assessment of what this team is going to be in the next month without the quarterback being out there.
That's fair.
That is very
That's
fair.
fair.
That's true.
Hey,
Thanks.
and to
Yeah, go
Didi's
ahead.
point on the receivers and stuff, one
Yeah.
of the guys we haven't talked about who's coming back healthy, missed a training camp. I love him, is Marquise Goodwin. As
I know,
a
I'd love to see
person,
more of him.
and he's in the few snaps he's gotten open a few times deep. And I think he's starting to get his health back and getting into his game. That could be somebody
That's true.
who
He showed with that 20-yard run
We need a
last
quarterback
Yeah.
who's ready the ball, though.
He's a
ready.
good.
I'm willing to cash app his plays to from Elijah Moore. Go ahead and just siphon those right over to Goodwin. We'll take that money.
All right, Aditi. By the way, if Elijah Moore turns it on second half of the year, Aditi needs to do a victory lap on everybody. 'Cause
She will,
She's
yeah.
the only one. She's one of the very few that still believes in him.
That's right.
She can see walking
So
her living room.
she's going to have a good celebration on that one. And let's hope. We're all hoping she's right.
We are.
We're all hoping
We may
she's right
find
on
out
that.
Sunday as we
Yeah.
watch Aditi and the CBS crew and
Yeah.
the Browns and the Colts from Indy.
That's right.
Aditi, thank you very much. Mike, we're going to do
We got some super chats, and whenever we
chats.
bring you super chats, it's brought to us by our dear friends at PCC Airfoils. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, well, PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Just a couple super chats to get to today. The first one comes from Simple. He says, just a point on Elijah Moore real quick. He could have had just shy of 100 yards if PJ wouldn't have underthrown him 3 times in the fourth quarter.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
James Cosby says, Bernie has always displayed a high football IQ and feel for the game.
Savant.
Hyper Frosty says, what do I have to do to get on the show? Name it, I'll do it, as long as it's not money. Hyper Frosty, we'll think of
Well,
something.
I know. I can tell him right now. Place a $5 bet on FanDuel and win
There you
3,000
go.
or 4,000. You're on
Genius.
the show.
Halim Youssef said Deshaun is practicing today. That is officially confirmed. Alex Van Pelt also confirmed
First
that.
time since September 22nd that he's on the practice field.
That is big news for the Browns. 2 more real quick. Kenny Moss says, I would love to see a Lions and Browns Super Bowl.
I would too.
And Jacob Gordon said, Bernie is the man. Remember when he came to St. Anne Grade School in the Heights when I was there? Pretty sure he signed an autograph for every student. Love him on the show. Thanks again for everything, Bernie.
Thank you.
You remember that autograph, don't you?
I
St.
tell you what, St. Anne's Father Jim Singler was the parish priest there. He moved over from St. Christopher's in the day. And I know, I can't remember what I said 10 minutes ago, but I remember that.
Your recall is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, thanks. You know what? I tell younger players and that we could be busy, but meeting kids and not trying to sign autographs and be nice. Most interactions are 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, you got time for
Meeting
that.
kids like that and making sure you don't want to be the guy that left and did not sign one
No,
or
yeah,
two
that's
kids'
right.
autographs.
You're right.
What is the longest play call that you ever did in the huddle? Do you remember a play call where it was super duper 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 long?
So we had lots of calls like with motions and shifts. Zig to 2 flip wide, short 60Y option, X smash, Z bow out, F chip check through, and that was one of my big ones with Leroy Horde
my
and K
God.
Mac, and that was really kind of basic. That wasn't
That was
actually
basic?
wrong. So that was a typical thing, and basically you're telling all 10 guys what to do from that, and that got a little wordy. So I really believe I evolved my my audibles into like eye contact and stuff, so you could actually do audibles without talking, and we would have plays like that, just like for the bad coaches who would show you your signals 4, 3, under, cover 2. I would have simple signals that I would talk to the guys with to shorten the calls. So I would talk to Webster, not with words, but with hand signals.
Incredible.
Leave it like that.
Yeah, I mean, you really do have to be Mensa level brilliant to take all of that in, remember all of the nuances to that's one play call.
Right.
You know, in an average game plan, what would you have? 40?
Oh, you run about 65 plays. You would have. I would go in 80 to 100 plays. But it was imperative that you were able to actually manipulate the other team. So I would tell guys on the other team what the play was. You know, they just don't believe you. You know what I'm saying? You tell them enough, and then eventually they believe you. That's the time you lied.
That is so great.
That's good mind games right there.
Oh, the mental aspect of it really is in play. Oh, there's no doubt. With DBs, you would tell them. You would tell them the plays.
I've heard
until you don't.
So you hear all the time that Larry Bird used to do that on the basketball court, that he would tell guys, hey, on this next play, I'm going to do this. I'm going to step back, hit a jumper right in your eye.
All right. I tell you, you studied all week to do a breakdown of the play and what's going to happen. He's running a bomb on you right now. It's coming. Okay, it's coming.
And now he's got to decide, is that true or
he's
not?
lying. And it would be a bomb, but he wouldn't know.
Coming up on Overtime, I'm going to share the story that I shared off the air with some of these guys. But no, I don't think anybody on the panel has heard this yet about a call I made to 911 this morning.
Also, DJ has his new song.
Has got a new
Oh, we're
song?
playing that in overtime?
Yes, sir.
Well, then you better hurry up and become a Coaches Tier member, $4.99 if you want to see Haz's video, which is just out, I guess. We haven't seen it yet. See you then.